Now we're going to make some front legs for the seat. I like this front leg. It's not so straight. It's got just a nice little curve that gives it some extra motion. And so, first thing we have to do is we've got our stock milled up, and we need to decide which is going to be the right leg and which is going to be the left leg. Well, if I were sitting in this chair right here, which would be a stretch because it's kind of small. If I was sitting in this chair, this would be the right leg and this would be the left leg. The right arm's going to be attached to it. That's left arm. That's the way that goes. From the sitting in it position, decide right and left. All right, so this is going to be the right leg. It's got a little bit of sapwood here. I put that to the inside. I kind of like the way the grain is moving down. And so I thought that would do well for the right leg. The left leg, this is going to be the inside. I've got an L on it for left. This is the top. And when I mill up the stock, I add about a 1/16 of an inch to the width of the piece so that I want this leg to just fit between these notches right here. And trying to fit it, that's what I'm going to aim at, is try to get it to fit there. So this side has been jointed, this side has not been jointed. So we're going to joint this side until it fits between the notch there. And then this will be the leg for seat board number 5. So that's what we're going to do. Let's go to the joiner and we'll make them all fit. All right, let's see what we have here. Try to stick it right between there. Just want to get it right inside. Yeah, that looks pretty good. I think that's a winner. The next thing is on the inside here, we need to make a dado and make dados on the edges also so that we can fit this leg on. And all that process starts out with finding a center line so we can do the layout. So let's find a center line. A good way to do it is I like to use a marking gauge like this, and I mark it one way and another way. Now, I've got these 2 little spots right here. It's easy to find right there. There's one and there's one. Now, to find the center line, it's somewhere between there. So if I use this the way it's supposed to be used, now I'm getting closer. So much easier than measuring. I'm almost there. We'll test it out. And eventually, if you live long enough, you'll find the center of the board. Just keep trying. All right, so I'm making a line here because I've got a center on my pattern that will help. Make sure we've got this in the right place. Okay. Now, this is the top. This is the outside. There's the inside. So we want to come down 3 7/8 of an inch. And that's going to be the top of our dado. All right, let me get a square and we'll mark it out. Now we're going to go all the way around both edges of the board. We're also going to cut a little bit across the front from each edge. Love these cut lines. Makes it so easy to lay something out and then saw or pare to that line. All right, there we go. Now we've got the inside, on the inside of the board, we've got the tops of our dados. Well, what are we going to do about the tenon? We're going to measure it. So this is the left leg, and this is the left, this is seat board number 5, which is on the left side. Well, let's measure this. Measure our tenon and see what we have. We have, it says 27/32. It's a little tighter where you have end grain here. This is face grain. Where you have end grain, it's a little harder for the router to cut that. So it's always a little thicker right here. So let's take our measurement there. Okay. Now we really don't care about the number so much. We want to take this and going down the leg, this is the top, going down the leg, we want to lay it out. Okay. And that's the thickness of our tenon. All right. The only other thing we need is the depth. So let's see if we can get the depth of our, rabbet right there. Okay. That's right at 1/4 of an inch. So let's set this for 1/4 of an inch right here. Now I can use a marked at 1/4 of an inch, and that's where we're going to make our cut right here. And that's what we have to do, and we'll take it to the table saw and we'll cut here, and then I'll show you something really neat where we can flip it over and we can just cut then to the shoulders. Makes it so easy. I know you can do it. I'll show you how. Okay, we're going to kerf this out just like we did those front notches that this will attach to. And so it's 1/4 of an inch deep is the cut that we need to make. And I've got it set right here. And I'll probably have to raise up the saw just a little bit, or might have to raise up the saw just a little bit to hit that line. We'll see. So let's start, see what happens. Tooth right on that line. I hope. All right, let's see if it fits. It goes, how about that? Bob's your uncle. Once we have this cut, and once it fits, then all you have to do is cut this and cut this by setting it up like that and cutting to those shoulders on each side. It works great. Just watch. Now I'm going to sit the square side of that blade. I'm just going to place it right next to the shoulder. Ah, yeah, that's good. Now, let's round this over and we'll see how it fits. I have a white side rounding over bit chucked up here. And the way to set it up is, first of all, I want to make sure that the bearing right there, the pilot bearing, is flush with the fence. The other thing is I want to make sure that the edge, just the edge of the rounding over carbide right here is even with the top of the table. That way we get the full round over. That's what we need, is the full round over. So it's set up well. Let me go get a leg and we'll see how it works. Now let's check our fit again. All right, it's a pretty good fit, but it still needs some more work. The final fit will come from improving the round over here so that it can pull up flush with the shoulder on the seat here. Yeah. Well, let me get a sanding block that has some sticky back 80 grit paper on it, and I'll show you how to make it a great fit. All right, now we've got a good fit here, and we're going to lay out the shape of the leg, try to get that nice curve. It's going to look good. So I've got a center line all the way around this leg, and this is the right leg, and this is the right side. And so I'm going to match up center lines. And then trace all the way around. The leg. And we've got this angle at the bottom that is 7.5 degrees. And what I intend to do with that is take it. All right, so I've got it laid out, and now I'm going to take it to my crosscut saw and cut this 7.5 degree angle here. Let's go. All right, I've got this set up to cut a miter at 7.5 degrees. And thank goodness I've got a good laser here. Let's see if it works. Ah, yes. Well, we've got our joinery, and we've got our layout. We've got some bandsaw lines here, and so forth. These little flicks that I made mean to come out early. In other words, don't cut all the way to that line. You need to leave some. When you're doing sculpted furniture, you always need to leave a little bit more so that you can sculpt the joint. If you cut everything away, you're not going to have anything to sculpt. And the flowing lines, one piece into the other, is what really makes it so beautiful and so interesting. So I've got these lines, plus I have laid out the places when we cut the rest of this away, where our dowels are going to be drilled. And we're going to drill those before we proceed to cut other things away. It's easier to do that way. So let me show you how that will work. Now, I like to use something called a dowel it. And we're going to make some 3/8 inch dowel holes or mortises right here to accept the dowel. With a 3/8 inch brad point bit. This is a woodworking bit. You don't want to use a metalworking bit for woodworking if you can help it. This has a nice little point that you can aim and be very consistent at hitting the target you're trying to hit. Now, the dowel it is something that's got places for 1/2 inch holes, 3/8 inch holes, and everything kind of less than 1/2 inch. So you can really target it. Now let me show you what the dowel it does is as you tighten it up, it continues to center. And we're going to place these off center. So in order to do that, I made up a little packet that's about 1/2 inch thick here. And I can use it to aim to put my dowel exactly where I want it, or close enough. All right, so I want to use the 3/8 inch hole, and that is right there. All right. So let me get a drill, and then we'll make the holes, go from there. So we want to go 1 inch deep with these 3/8 inch dowel mortises. So I've got my dividers set and get close enough as to the depth that we need. So now let's drill the hole. Now we're going to turn it over and do the same thing on the other side. Remember, this one has been cut off at 7.5 degrees right here. The dowel it will be able to sit nicely and read that. Need one more mark, it looks like, to line up the dowel it. And when I finish doing this, I'll show you where the rest of these marks came from so that you can lay out your leg. There's a nice little white line that is on the dowel that helps me with lining it up. There we go. All right. Okay. Now, all I did was take these layout lines and score them at the bottom, make sure I had an inch from here, from this surface, the front of the leg, to this point right there. I wanted an inch. And then that becomes a rectangle. Make an X so we could find the center, and then use the dowel to make the hole. The same thing here. I wanted an inch back, drew the line, and when you add the packet to it and square it up with the dowel and center everything, then you've got the hole exactly where you want it. That works a whole lot better drilling those holes right now. Now the rest of it is just shaping it. So let's go to the bandsaw. We'll make our first cuts, and we'll just continue shaping the leg until it smiles at us. So now we just want to bandsaw on these lines. But we want to come out a little early, at least 1/8 of an inch before we get to the end of that line right there. We don't want to cut into our joint, and we want to leave enough so that we can actually have something to sculpt like I was talking about. So let's get started. Now, we're going to lay out a few more lines here so that we can get that nice little curve away from the seat. It kind of makes an offset piece. And then we'll lay out some lines here so that it'll kind of faintly dip in and come back out. We'll go to the bench and do that. Made some little lines here that are about 1/2 inch below and above the joint. Our joint will actually be about 3/8 of an inch. This will be into the joint right here. So giving ourselves a little bit of cushion. Now, what I want to do here is from that line, just looking at that line, that 1/2 inch line, I want to look down and be able to see the edge of that. And I'm going to draw a line like so. And we're going to cut that off. And then the same thing at the bottom. I want to be able to find that mark right here. And then lining this up. Now I've got a line to cut on there. Now, we're not quite finished here. Right here, 1/8 of an inch from the front to there. This is kind of an optional cut if you'd like to make it. I think it helps really give more shape to the front legs. 1/8 of an inch in, I'm just going to mark that right here. And then from here down to the outside edge, I'm going to mark that. to use a long neck marker here. Where is my long neck marker? Doing the same thing at the top. And doing this, the leg, that little bit right there, kind of in a curve, the leg will appear to be bending this way and bending that way. Should make it look just really nice for our purposes. This will be taken off on the inside and this on the outside. Let's go to the bandsaw, make those cuts. All right, let's make these cuts right here. I'm going to start on this side. All right, now this is the rough shape of the leg. And of course, we'll make an X across here, find the center, and that's where the screw will go. Looks good. It's got lots of shape.